The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's a Monday, but this is a big Monday. We got a lot of things to talk about.
It kicked off on WSAR not more than an hour ago.
Yeah.
The mayor called in screaming about an article that the Herald News put up that he had no idea about. The Herald News article says Fall River Make It Here banner program on hold to meet state regulations, which is what we talked about last week when I said he may be in violation of 30B.
And lo and behold,
he is. And Kathy Ann Vivera said that the program is on hold. The purchasing agent, Rhonda Avila Pinnell, said Thursday she was soliciting quotes not only from community service showcase banners, but also from two local companies, Baker Sign Works and Graphics Plus. I think Paul Simister should be doing that too, don't you?
Yeah.
If either the city-based vendor offers the winning price, the so-called 2018 Community Reuse Banner Program will truly be made here. Community-based showcase banner company project manager Matt Cottigan has been soliciting local businesses to sponsor the banners that the company planned to manufacture, install, and maintain for a year. The banners would be hung from light poles primarily around Government Center and North and South Main Street, with a hefty price tag that make it not surprising their profit margin could easily exceed the $10,000 threshold. According to the company's pricing schedule, purchasing banners cost anywhere from $800 to $4,500. Solicitations went too well for the company, with them reportedly selling 50 banners to 34 local businesses. The city would get marketing services with no monetary compensation, as well as giving the company access to the city's Make It Here logo that was designed by a Providence firm, again, not made in Fall River, and launched in February of 2017. Fall River was named an All-American City Award winner by the National Civic League in 2016. We didn't anticipate the overwhelming response, said City Administrator Kathy Ann Viveras. On Wednesday, the administration stopped community showcase banners from selling any more banners until the quote process is completed, Viveras said. While the New York company did not have a contract or formal agreement, according to Mayor Jason Correa II, the process for taking written quotes will require a contract to the vendor who brings in the lowest bid. Terms of the contract include the winning vendor to provide 30 complimentary full-color vinyl banners, including their design, production, installation, solicitation, and upkeep for 1 year. Correa took some heat after the banner program came to light last week, when it appeared that the banners featuring the city and national designation logos would be manufactured outside the city and not made here. But the administration has since clarified the point, saying at the time community showcase banners would seek a local company to make them here. That's my fault for not being clear, said Correa this week.
Well, look, apparently he is not very aware of anything that's going on based on...
Well, you know, it's funny you should say that, because on WSAI, not moments ago, they said, who's running the city? Is it the mayor or is it Kathy Ann and Mary Sahadi? Because everyone's got to go to Kathy Ann and Mary Sahadi for information. The mayor's got to keep going to them. Who runs this city, Mr. Mayor? Who runs it?
Well, you're right. And apparently he must be busy doing other things like preparing his court case, but or something like that. But apparently he's not paying attention, because he made assertions, and he also, I have been told, made a veiled threat.
Yeah, that was against Laura Washington and her husband, who's a Fall River police officer.
So it was like, I know who your husband is. It's like, so what's that got to do with the price of apples?
on the banners.
But and the banners. So he's not real happy, and he's showing his lack of, actually his lack of leadership. He's not in charge. I mean, the reality is it's okay to delegate authority, but when you're the boss, you have, the buck stops here. You can't blame everybody else when things go wrong. And to call a radio station and act like a petulant child.
And that's exactly what the listeners were saying.
The reality is, look, from what I've been told, and I'm going to listen to the podcast, obviously, but I've been told that, you know, she made the statement and she wasn't making this up. She was quoting from a newspaper
Just
article,
like we
which
did.
just, you know, and he's, well, I've got to check. Well, you got to check. You're the mayor. You think maybe if you were competent, you would have checked before you called? So you don't show how not up to speed you are?
Well, interestingly enough, a caller called into WSAR and said, you know, this isn't the first time this has happened. Look at the King Philip Mill. We solicited bids, and all of a sudden we found out there's another property on it, and we have to put that on hold. And you know, I called in and I said, hey, he's putting the cart before the horse all the time. He's making these mistakes, and it makes us look like fools.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing is that, but then again, I'm not sure if they're mistakes, because you've got to look at their attitude, because they truly believe that they don't have to abide by laws when it suits them. They only use laws when it suits them. Otherwise, it's like, hey, the hell with 30B. We don't care. We don't care if there's, you know, there are protocols and there are laws, statutory requirements when you go through a process. How many times have we seen this happen in the city of Fall River? I mean, not unique, but this administration has raised it to an art form.
And how much do you want to make a bet? Put money on it that this community showcase banners place is going to get the contract. Even if they come in at the highest, they're still going to get the contract.
Well, you know,
because you know what? It's not going to be made here.
Yeah.
It's not going to be made here. Nothing's going to be made here. And that's what, you know, this mayor's touting, make it here, we can make it here, we can make it here, but nothing gets made here. Nothing. Nothing, Mr. Mayor. So your banner isn't make it here. Your banner should read fake it here. Fake it here, because that's exactly what it's going to.
And just because you said that, it might be made here, and they should give you a bonus for getting them the contract, because he may do that just to say, you see, I made something here. I doubt it. But remember, it's always made elsewhere if possible. And, you know, he likes Providence, and he likes other, you know, and that's the reality. The reality is, you know, how can, you know, when the mayor doesn't support community businesses, when there's no, you know, I mean.
Well, that's not true. He does support the Peak Bean. Just look at his campaign finance reports.
Well, you know, the reality is that, you know, Buddy Cianci got himself in a lot of trouble, but he is, by everybody, by most of the people who talk about Providence, they agree that Buddy Cianci was the architect of the Renaissance of the city of Providence. And how did he do that? Buddy Cianci was adamant about using Providence labor whenever they built anything, by getting Providence businesses into the loop, and trying every way he could to ensure that local businesses got the contracts if at all possible. And that was one of the reasons that the Renaissance of Providence began, and it was successful. And, you know, we don't see that here in Fall River. You know, the only mantra they have is give businesses to somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and screw the taxpayer. And if we waste a bunch of money, who cares? And if we delay things, who cares? That's the reality of the Riv. You know, we have a government and a city council that just doesn't care. They have not come to the realization, or maybe they have and they're just ignoring it because all they're doing is taking care of their friends, and they don't care about this because they'll move out with their boatload of cash later on at some point in time. They're not going to stay here after they've made their money like carpetbaggers and leave. The only thing that's going to save Fall River are two things: jobs, and we've addressed that by having training and apprenticeship programs to train people to have, you know, job skills above the first hired, last hired, first fired, you know, entry-level, no-skill jobs, because that's going to disappear in America anyway. which will get us into another story later. But the second thing is we've got to bring people in to live in Fall River. And how do we do that? You know, this baloney of bringing yuppies in from Boston area. If you're making 6 figures, you're not living in Fall River. You're not going to come to a place that's got crime, and the educational system didn't even make the top 100. We got all kinds of heroin. We got all kinds of issues. And our growth rate reflects that, 0.1%. Who do we need? We need people that are normal people, that have regular jobs. Can you attract them to Fall River? Sure, if we clean up our act. If we begin to take control of our city and take it back from the criminals and do what we have to do and show them Fall River is a place they would consider because the housing costs are so cheap. I mean, your house is worth half of what it's worth anywhere else if it's in Fall River. But you could take advantage of that by bringing in working class people to repopulate this community. But we can't if we continue to beat them up with taxes and fees, because they're going to look at the educational system, the crime, the opioid, and then they're going to look at the fact that, yeah, you're going to buy a house cheap, but you're paying all kinds of fees and taxes, and they keep saying, well, it's the lowest. No. You know, look at the income level. We've got to bring people in. We've got to bring people in with jobs and who will pay property taxes, and we're not going to attract, we're not going to attract tourists from the Midwest driving to the Cape or Newport to stop in to Fall River to do what? To see what?
To pick up their dime bag.
Yeah, exactly. And we're also not going to attract the people from Boston.
No, they get their own dime bags there.
You know, the bottom line is that if you're living on the North Shore or the South Shore or Braintree or one of those other places, and you're commuting into Boston, you're not going to move down to Fall River. I don't care if they build a train. That train is going to be to escape Fall River, not come to Fall River. The reality is that we need to attract these people. Could we attract them? Absolutely. But that's the problem. We have everything we have when we talk about fixing the economy in this city sounds like it came from a bipolar, delusional economist, because it just doesn't make any sense. You know, people are living in Newton, not moving back to Fall River. You know, they're just not doing it.
Why not?
Well, so, I mean, make it here in Fall River. Let's see what happens. And please, Mr. Mayor, don't be, I know who your husband is. I know where your family lives. But it sounds like I'm in Mother Russia. You know, didn't the Russians used to say that? If you don't tell the Marc, your family's going to be in a gulag.
We know who your family is.
That's right. We know where your family is.
We will send you to Siberia.
That's right. They'll be in a gulag. I mean, come on. That's a little. That's you're out of. And please do yourself a favor.
I love this little article by Marc Dion, the leeching of Fall River.
Yeah. Well, again.
And he's talking about big business sucking off the Fall River teat.
Yeah.
Using the workers like we always say.
Yeah. And discarding them like the machinery.
That's right. And that's what he's talking about here. And no matter what the politicians say, and he brings this up, okay? Not too many days later, U.S. Rep. Kennedy said it's speaking on the floor of the House for a 61-year-old worker nearing retirement paying off his daughter's student loans. Hey, what are you going to do?
No.
And I brought this up, there's another story in here about it. The state delegation got on board, and they said everybody signed a letter to Phillips, begging them to turn around and to come back to Fall River. Middleborough, Fall River, you name it, Taunton, they were all signing this letter. What's it going to do? It's a feel-good thing for them. They say, look, we're doing something. We're doing something. Can't you see? We're doing something. And that's what this leeching of Fall River is.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Even our local delegation can't get off their backside. Nobody knew, and the mayor didn't know. Why? Because we don't have an economic development plan.
Well, you know, the reality is, look, they'll only come back if we give them the farm again. If we make their costs so little that they don't have to move to a third world country for the production-based stuff. And who suffers then? That's not a win. Oh, big victory. We got the 160 jobs back. And what are we going to do? Give them rebates and more tax breaks? They got $180-some million back in taxes. The bottom line is, how much are we going to give them? And then it's going to be included in a residential tax rate. And we can't get people, you know, a very small percentage of people are paying that residential tax because only 34% of the people in the city own their own property. So it's a disproportionate amount. So is it truly a victory if we did get it? Like you said, it's feel-good baloney. And as far as our federal delegation concerns, please, that makes me nauseous when they do stuff like this, because now we got bus loads of immigrants demanding to come into the United States. We're not leaving till every one of us gets in. Well, guess what? And then we've got our liberal Washington people saying, "Oh, that's what America's about. It's about taking care of people." No, it's about taking care of your people. You let people in who come in legally. Your great-grandparents and your grandparents and your great-great-grandparents, or if they came over on the Mayflower, well, they didn't have immigration laws. We weren't a country. But the fact is, there were people that waited a long time to get into this country. The reality is, if you're from some countries right now and you try to get into this country legally, there's a 10-year wait. 5 to 10-year wait to get into this country legally. It's an absolute insult to the people who came to this country legally to even, and they make it national news, and then they start with this, oh, feel good, fuzzy, wuzzy, cry closet crap. Oh, they're all sitting over there and they show the little kids and stuff. So I guess all you need to come to this country, all you people on a 10-year wait, the hell with it. Fly over to Mexico, rent a bus, and drive up to the border and pick it. And you got a better chance of getting in sooner. Does that make any damn sense? Not to me. It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Well, disgust seems to flow through the streets of Fall River rather easily.
Yeah.
So, hey, did anyone know that Saturday the GOP convention happened?
Nobody cares in Fall River. GOP, you know, they think that means GOP.
Gulag's on patrol.
Yeah, Gulag's on patrol, yeah. Is that some kind of food they serve at one of the...
Well, I can tell you now from the GOP convention, Charlie Baker, surprisingly, surprisingly received the endorsement, so he'll be on the ballot.
Yeah.
Jeff Deal, after 2 votes, he'll be on the ballot running for U.S. Senate. And that's going to be one of the most closely watched races, as we know. Kiko O'Ral from Middleborough is going for state treasurer. So, you know, I posted these on Spindle City Straight Talk. If you want to see where the endorsements came out, there they are. Hey, the charter's back in the news. Imagine that. The former Fall River Charter Commissioners form a group to force charter compliance. And
well, why would we comply with a charter? I mean, it's only, you know, it's only fundamentally the Constitution of the city. Why would we do that? Isn't that like a discretionary document?
Yes.
It's like, you know, it's kind of like the 10 Commandments are discretionary. You know, I mean, thou shalt not kill. Well, you know, that only really applies on Tuesdays. But
and every 9th Thursday.
That's right. So, I mean, well, of course. And they're right. You know, Joe Macy should not be the arbiter and the final decision maker on the charter. The charter should have been a definitive. Number one, it was poorly written.
That's true.
We paid $40,000 to this guy, and then he got a whole bunch of other gigs out of it. So he's made a boatload of money, and he wrote one of the most ambiguous documents I've ever seen. But then, rather than not vote for it, they convinced the people to vote for it. And they voted for it. And now all those ambiguities are biting them in the butt. And even the ones that aren't ambiguous, they just override them. It's like, okay, we don't care. That's what the charter says. But don't worry about it. My interpretation is this, and it doesn't apply to this, or we're grandfathering this in. That's not the way it's supposed to be done. There are, again, I use the word that's almost an expletive in Fall River. There are laws. There are statutes about how these things go into effect. When the charter went into effect in full force is clearly defined. Read it. Look it up. So, CJ must be getting a message. I see him.
No, I was reading this article on the former Fall River Charter Commissioners, and they're arguing, they're upset about everything we've been talking about.
Yeah. For how long? Since before the charter.
Since before the charter.
We predicted this crap show. I mean, we knew this was going to happen.
And Joe Macy has said it over and over again. If any resident doesn't agree with my opinion, challenge me in court. That's what he wants you to do. He wants you to challenge him in court. He wants a judge to make the ruling.
Yeah, which I find kind of deplorable, because what he's telling the people is spend your hard-earned money to fight me while I'm triple dipping and getting paid by your tax dollars.
Exactly.
But go fight me in court with your money while I get paid with your money.
Right.
I don't work for you. I'm a political hack, and all my opinions are not fashioned
in law.
In law, it's fashioned so it will do it will foster the political agenda of the man who hired me.
Exactly.
So,
and that's the biggest problem.
And we have.
I already spoke on that Fall River Delegation.
Yeah, no,
that's a joke.
We've already six bids submitted to construct the new Durfee High School,
and not one of them from Fall River.
Yeah.
Guess we're not making it here either.
Yeah, and I'd like to see the RFP for this, because I'm sure. Let's see if there are any. Performance guarantees or non-performance clauses where if they don't do their job, if they come in overbid, if they're late, if there are going to be penalties, because I don't think so.
Well, and the companies
just remember, before you go, just remember, they run over, they overbid. We pay more for that school. It's not coming out of their pocket. Guess whose pocket it's coming out of? Yours.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the companies that applied or submitted bids are some are well-known companies in this area. Dimeo of Providence, construction company, they built the Fall River Justice Center, as well as construction projects at Johnson & Wales, Yale University, Providence College, and Western Connecticut State University. Gilbane Building Company, which is based in Providence.
Yeah, they've been around for years.
They've been around for years. You see them on the highway all the time.
Yeah, actually, I used to have a...
They built schools across the country in Florida, Georgia, Washington, D.C., California, and, of course, Massachusetts. Skanska, not Sanka, Skanska, an international company with a New York City headquarters, has built schools in New Hampshire, North Carolina, and Florida. Shawmut Design and Construction, which is based in Providence, built several K-12 public schools across Massachusetts. Consigli, a national construction company, built several K-12 public schools in Mass and Connecticut. And Suffolk Construction, another well-known construction firm, Boston-based national company that's built public schools and universities across the country. After reviewing the bid proposals and interviewing process, the Durfee Building Committee expects to award a contract by the first week of June. Construction is expected to begin next year, with the new Durfee slated to open in September 2021. But again, nothing from Fall River. And did this RFP say that you must use local contractors? Did it say that you have to? Is there any provisions in this RFP?
I can tell you by looking at one of these companies who has built. They've done their building in North Carolina and Florida and in New Hampshire. North Carolina and Florida are both right-to-work states. They're total non-union, and they got as many low-paid. I mean, I'm looking at this company, and you know, you don't even know how good their quality is. I'd really check, because you know right off the bat when most of their work is in these right to work states, that means right to pay people peanuts, and there's nobody in their right mind going to work in Florida.
Dumbo gets paid more.
banging nails when they could make more money in any state where that's unionized. So, you know, right off the bat, that particular company. And when they say international, you know what that means? That means outsource. Get as much cheap labor as possible. That's a code word for we outsource anything. You know,
and everything.
Then when you call up and you got a complaint, you get somebody in New Delhi, you know, and they go, "What happened?" Oh, very nice. Okay. And it's like, okay, where are you? Can I get you down to the job site? No. It's kind of hard to book a flight from New Delhi back to back to Ellsbury Street. So.
Oh God, it's just too funny.
It is. It's. I mean, look again, you know, and it kills me. It's like how soon they forget. You know, 40 years ago when they built this Durfee, it was going to be the crown jewel. It was beautiful architecturally. Then they crucified it so they could get more money. And by the time we pay this debt off, we'll be due to do this all over again. But look, we had a whole bunch of people go to jail, a whole bunch of people retire early, a whole bunch of people lose their jobs. And, you know, everything we build is a mess, and let's see how well they do this time. You know, the track record is the track record. You know, I'm not being a pessimist. I'm being a pragmatist. How well have we maintained our buildings over the past 40 years, including Durfee, and not exclusive to Durfee, all the other buildings that are in disrepair? But who cares? Get the taxpayer, get another bond, and rebuild it. And then pay somebody to maintain it, and they won't, and then 30 or 40 years down the road, we'll rebuild it again. I don't know how those fire stations are still standing down on North Main Street and stuff that were built in the 1800s. I guess in those days they actually built stuff to last. But look, this is whenever you got this kind of money, you really need top shelf oversight. Because there's a lot of money. A lot of people are looking at this. This is a big, giant pie. It's a big, giant trough. And all these companies are drooling because this is a lot of work. You know, there's a lot of work and a lot of money. And they can employ a lot of their people and make a huge profit. So you've got to really be careful. And you've got to be careful about workmanship and everything else. And, you know, historically, we have not done that. I do not see any new players in this equation that make me confident that this isn't going to be another mess.
I agree. It's the same people, same names, different projects. That's all it is.
That's right, exactly. And, you know, and the same, and doing it in exactly the same fashion, which last time I checked was the definition of insanity, you know.
Well, here's the thing. If there's even one roof leak for the first 20 years of that building, the taxpayer should get a refund.
Yeah. Not a chance. You know, they'll let's check and look how many times have we seen this? And look, we're in Massachusetts, and we're like the epitome of screwing things up. And look at our state. We still have, you know, we're still the icon for public projects. The Big Dig, you know, is legendary. It's legendary. It was one of the worst projects, if not the worst. I think one other project beat it now recently. But, I mean, it was one of the worst projects ever built. It killed somebody. I mean, the workmanship was so poor. So that doesn't get you angry. See you later. And by the way, we're not having a show Wednesday.
No show Wednesday because of a lockdown drill here.
Lockdown drill. We'll be locked up. So a lot of you will be happy with that. So have a good one. We'll see you on Friday. Stay angry, everyone.
Stay angry, everyone. We'll see you Friday.